Our timeline of history holds a secret buried in plain sight. Civilizations that never should have met built with the same impossible precision and studied the same distant stars. What if these weren't separate discoveries, but fragments of a single, forgotten science? This is the investigation of the archaeological clues suggesting a global science before recorded history. By the end, you will see the ancient world not as a collection of isolated wonders, but as the scattered pages of a lost instruction manual for reality itself. We will uncover why the same mathematical constant appears in pyramids across the world, and how myths from every continent describe the same catastrophic reset. What do you believe is our oldest forgotten truth, that framework transforms a collection of ruins into a potential blueprint? A global science would mean that the builders of the Great Pyramid in Egypt and the Pyramid of the Sun in Mexico weren't just solving similar problems. They were working from the same chapter of a universal textbook. This shared knowledge likely wasn't a single, rigid doctrine, but a flexible set of core principles. Think of it like the rules of music. You can have a symphony in Vienna, a folk song in Beijing, and a drum circle in West Africa, all sounding utterly unique, yet all adhering to the same underlying mathematics of harmony, rhythm, and scale. They are different expressions of the same foundational science of sound. So what might the chapters of this ancient textbook have contained? Astronomy would be the first and most obvious section, a practical science for navigation, agriculture, and marking sacred time. Advanced mathematics would be another, providing the language for engineering and for encoding complex knowledge into stone. Then there's geomancy, the sacred placement of structures upon the Earth's landscape, aligning them with telluric energies or celestial patterns we are only beginning to measure. And finally, a profound understanding of materials, from the acoustic properties of granite to the precise mixture of concrete, allowing for feats of construction that still baffle modern engineers. This idea challenges a cornerstone of mainstream history, the belief in the independent, isolated invention of civilization. The established view, often called hyper, is cautious, preferring to see parallel development as proof of human ingenuity's universal spark. And that is a beautiful, valid perspective. But our investigation lives in the space between that view and the mounting pile of anomalies, the artifacts and alignments that seem to whisper of connection. Scholars like Graham don't claim to have all the answers, but they ask a powerful question. What if the timeline we've constructed is missing a foundational layer, a forgotten epic of human achievement that ended in a great cataclysm? This isn't about replacing one dogma with another, it's about following the evidence, no matter how uncomfortable the destination may be. The search for this lost science begins not with grand theories, but with the silent testimony of the most durable objects our ancestors left behind, the stones they chose to shape and the stars they chose to watch. The stones themselves tell the first part of the story. Scattered across continents, in landscapes separated by vast oceans, and a singular architectural signature repeats, a language written not in words but in geometry and gravity. It is the language of megalithic precision. Consider the Cyclopean walls of in Peru, where multi-ton blocks of andesite are fitted together in a dizzying, zigzagging puzzle, their curves so perfectly matched that not even a razor blade can slip between them. Then travel across the world to the plains of Baalbek in Lebanon, where a single foundation stone, estimated to weigh over 1,600 tons, sits as a silent testament to a lifting capability that defies our understanding of ancient logistics. The most startling examples might be at Puma in Bolivia. Here, granite and diorite blocks are cut with crisp, machine-like precision, featuring notches, channels, and complex interlocking shapes that suggest a knowledge of modular construction and tools far beyond simple copper chisels. The profound question this raises is not merely how they achieved this, but why this specific, immensely difficult technique of polygonal masonry, of cutting irregular stones to fit with airtight seams, became a global standard. Experts in ancient technology, like Christopher, have proposed these cultures might have understood harmonic resonance, using specific sound frequencies to temporarily alter the crystalline structure of stone, making it malleable like clay. Others point to advanced chemical knowledge, the use of plant-based compounds to soften rock surfaces for precise shaping. The purpose was far more than artistic. These interlocking, jigsaw-like walls are incredibly resistant to seismic activity. The stones shift and settle during an earthquake without collapsing, a brilliant application of geophysics encoded in granite and limestone. This points to a shared, hard-won understanding of planetary forces, a science of stability carved into the bedrock of multiple continents. When cultures presumed to have developed in total isolation arrive at the same complex, non-intuitive solution to a monumental engineering challenge, it begs for an explanation beyond coincidence. It is as if separate groups of builders, given the same impossible problem, reached for the same page from the same forgotten manual. The global distribution of this technique suggests a common source of technical knowledge, a foundational curriculum in stone that was disseminated, adapted, but never entirely lost. As we stand before these silent, immovable puzzles, we must lift our gaze from the earth-bound stones to the celestial clockwork they so often point toward, where the next chapter of this lost science is written in the movements of the stars. These celestial alignments form a second, undeniable clue written across the sky itself. If the stones speak a language of earth and stability, the heavens whisper a science of time and motion. From the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Cambodia, ancient architects turned their greatest monuments into permanent, stone-calibrated observatories. The Great Pyramid's sides align to the cardinal points with an accuracy within a fraction of a degree, an orientation to true north more precise than what the Royal Observatory in London achieved centuries later. In the American Southwest, a sliver of sunlight pierces a spiral carving in canyon only on the summer solstice, a perfect solar calendar etched into a cliff face. At Angkor Wat, the entire temple complex mirrors the constellation Draco in the era of its founding, a map of the stars rendered on an epic terrestrial scale. This global pattern is too consistent, too precise, to dismiss as artistic fancy. It represents a concerted, sophisticated effort to anchor human structures to the cosmic clock. The mystery grows exponentially deeper when we examine not just where these monuments point, but what they measure. Multiple ancient cultures developed calendars of staggering complexity that account for a phenomenon modern astronomy calls precession. This is the slow, 26,000-year wobble of Earth's axis, like a spinning top slowly tracing a circle in the void. To perceive this shift requires meticulous observation of the stars over generations, even centuries. Yet the Mayan long count calendar, the cyclical yugas of Vedic tradition, and the stellar clocks of ancient Egypt all demonstrate an awareness of this grand celestial cycle. They were not just marking the annual return of the sun, they were tracking humanity's place within a cosmic year spanning thousands of lifetimes. How could cultures separated by oceans and mountains independently calculate this imperceptibly slow celestial dance? The shared answer points toward a long-term scientific tradition, a dedicated school of observation where knowledge was preserved and refined over immense stretches of time. This was a science with profound practical roots, guiding agriculture and navigation, but it clearly ascended into the sacred. The same constellations, like Orion's belt or the Pleiades cluster, appear as central figures in myths and architectural blueprints from to the Mediterranean. This repetition suggests more than a shared wonder at the night sky. It hints at a common cosmological doctrine, a story about human origins and destiny written in the stars. The celestial codex they left behind, encoded in alignments and myth, implies a global framework for understanding time itself. To translate that framework into the physical world, to build these immense stone clocks, required a third, foundational element, a universal language for this lost science, the pure and potent grammar of mathematics. Mathematics provides the silent syntax for this lost global science, a universal language spoken through the precise angles of stone. Across the ancient world, architects and builders repeatedly encoded the same mysterious numbers and shapes into their most sacred spaces, as if following a divine set of instructions. The most famous of these is the number pi, the constant that defines the relationship between a circle's circumference and its diameter. In the Great Pyramid of Giza, this irrational number, known to be approximately 3.1416, appears with startling clarity. If you take the pyramid's perimeter and divide it by twice its original height, the result is a figure incredibly close to pi. This means the builders designed a square-based structure that mathematically encapsulates the properties of a circle, a profound geometric synthesis. But this was not an isolated Egyptian secret. The same reverence for pi and the related golden ratio, often called phi, echoes in the proportions of the Parthenon in Greece, in the dimensions of Stonehenge in England, and in the temple complexes of ancient India. These are not accidental alignments. They represent a conscious choice to embed the fundamental constants of our universe into human-made form. This mathematical obsession extends beyond simple ratios into the realm of sacred geometry. From the intricate mandalas of Tibetan Buddhism to the sprawling city plans we see a recurring visual vocabulary of fractals, spirals, and platonic solids. These are the geometric shapes that form the basis of atomic structures and galactic formations. A temple designed as a Sri Yantra, for instance, is not merely a beautiful pattern, it is a two-dimensional map of cosmic energy and consciousness, based on interlocking triangles and circles. Similarly, the stepped pyramids of both Egypt and the Americas can be seen as physical manifestations of the spiral, a mathematical sequence that governs the growth of leaves, the curve of seashells, and the arms of spiral galaxies. The implication is staggering. These diverse cultures were not just decorating their buildings, they were attempting to construct resonance with the very fabric of reality. Their sacred architecture was a form of applied physics, an effort to build structures that vibrated in harmony with the mathematical principles underlying nature, from the microscopic to the cosmic. This shared geometric code transcends all barriers of spoken language and written text, forming a silent, precise testament to a common intellectual heritage. It is the clearest blueprint we have, suggesting that this lost science understood numbers and shapes not as abstract concepts, but as the living architecture of creation itself. Yet, to translate these perfect geometric blueprints into mountains of solid rock required a final, practical element, a command over the physical world that seems to border on the magical, the mysterious art of moving and shaping the immovable. The artifacts themselves are the fourth and most tangible clue, physical objects that defy the expected timeline of human invention. They are not just aligned to stars or built with precise angles, they are crafted from materials that behave in ways we struggle to explain. Take the mechanism, a corroded bronze device recovered from an ancient Greek shipwreck. For decades it was a curiosity, until modern imaging revealed it to be an intricate analog computer, a clockwork universe of interlocking gears capable of predicting lunar phases and planetary positions. Its complexity would not be matched in Europe for another 1,000 years. It is a single, surviving fragment of a mechanical science that history forgot to record. Then there is the silent defiance of the Iron Pillar of Delhi in India. For over 16 centuries, it has stood exposed to the elements, yet it bears no significant rust. Modern analysis suggests its creators possessed a sophisticated understanding of metallurgy, forging the pillar with a unique phosphorus content that created a protective passive layer, a feat of chemical engineering lost to subsequent generations. Perhaps most puzzling are the stones that seem to have been softened or fused. At sites like Orrery of Scotland, we find stone surfaces that appear melted and reformed, as if subjected to intense, focused heat. This has led researchers like Joseph to propose the use of chemistry, a kind of advanced ancient concrete where natural stone was disaggregated and reconstituted into precision blocks, a process that would explain both the perfect fits and the unusual material properties. These are not isolated mysteries. They form a global pattern of applied science, a pragmatic mastery over the very substance of the world. This knowledge extended into logistics, the movement of the impossible. How did the builders of Baalbek transport a 1,000-ton block, or the Easter Islanders position their iconic statues? Conventional explanations of wooden rollers and earthen ramps reach their breaking point under such staggering weight and distance. The implication is a systemic, almost industrial understanding of physics, leverage, and perhaps even anti-friction techniques like the use of sound or magnetic levitation, concepts that sound like science fiction until you stand before the evidence. These feats point not to magic, but to a tested, repeatable body of engineering knowledge. It was a science that turned rock into a malleable medium and bronze into a thinking machine. This was not knowledge for its own sake, it was practical world-shaping technology. Its global footprint suggests it was once widespread, a common toolkit for civilization builders. Then, it fragmented. The machines broke, the formulas were lost, the techniques faded into legend. To understand why such a powerful science could vanish, we must finally listen to the oldest records humanity possesses, not carved in stone, but preserved in story, in the universal myths of a great flood and a fallen world. The world's oldest stories converge on a single, terrifying event. From the clay tablets of Mesopotamia describing the Epic of Gilgamesh, to the of the Maya, to the intricate Dreamtime narratives of Aboriginal Australia, over 500 distinct cultures tell a version of the same tale. A great deluge rises to drown the world, sent by displeased gods or a shifting nature, with only a handful of forewarned individuals surviving by boat or divine guidance to preserve the seeds of knowledge. Even Plato's philosophical account of Atlantis centers on a mighty civilization swallowed by the sea in a single day and night. The sheer uniformity of this narrative across every inhabited continent is perhaps the most profound clue of all. This is not merely a case of shared human imagination, but a potential echo of shared historical experience. Modern geology provides a startlingly plausible backdrop for these myths. Researchers like, and others point to a period known as Meltwater Pulse 1b, occurring roughly 12,000 years ago at the end of the last ice age. During this time, global sea levels rose catastrophically by hundreds of feet as the massive ice sheets collapsed. Coastlines we know today vanished underwater in a geological instant, swallowing entire landscapes where early human communities may have thrived. For those living on low-lying continental shelves, this would have been an apocalyptic, world-ending event, a reality that would be seared into cultural memory for. This collective cataclysm provides the missing piece in our puzzle, the mechanism for how a connected, scientifically advanced global culture could vanish almost without a trace. Imagine a sophisticated, perhaps maritime-based civilization existing on those now submerged coastlines. When the waters rose, their great cities, ports, and centers of learning were erased from the map in a relatively short span of generations. The survivors, scattered to the higher ground of what would become Egypt, Peru, Mesopotamia, and India, would have been refugees carrying only what they could remember, fragments of a much greater whole. They carried not a complete library, but survival knowledge, sacred stories, and core principles of astronomy, engineering, and geometry. Isolated from each other by the new oceans and mountains, these survivor groups became the seeds of what we now call the cradle civilizations. Each group rebuilt, adapting the fragments of the old science to their new environments, their languages, and their local gods. The shared geometric code, the celestial alignments, the megalithic style, these were not independent inventions, but divergent branches growing from a single, shattered trunk. The global flood myth, therefore, transforms from simple folklore into a potential historical record, the smoking gun that explains the pattern we see everywhere. It tells us why the evidence is fragmentary and buried, why the science seems both incredibly advanced and curiously incomplete. It suggests that our recorded history does not document humanity's first ascent to complexity, but rather its second great attempt, a rebuilding project atop the drowned ruins of a forgotten world. This realization shifts the entire mystery from a question of how they built these wonders to a more haunting question: what were they trying to preserve, or perhaps rebuild, from the world that was lost? This pursuit of a lost science leads us into the deepest chambers of the ancient mind, a realm where botany became a bridge to the divine. A sixth, profoundly enigmatic clue lies not in stone or star, but in the living tissue of specific plants and the precise rituals that surrounded them. From the steaming jungles of the Amazon to the philosophical schools of ancient Greece, we find a startlingly consistent tradition, a global pattern of using complex botanical brews to explore the frontiers of consciousness. The Amazonian brew ayahuasca presents one of the most compelling puzzles. It is not a single plant, but a meticulous combination of the vine and the leaves of the shrub. On their own, the compounds in these plants have little effect when ingested. But together, they create a profound visionary experience. The vine contains a substance that temporarily deactivates an enzyme in the human digestive system, allowing the potent psychoactive compound in the leaf to reach the brain. To discover this synergy through random trial and error seems statistically miraculous. It speaks instead to a deep, empirical science of plant chemistry, a systematic pharmacology developed through generations of careful observation and experimentation. This sophisticated knowledge was not unique to South America. The ancient Vedic texts of India speak reverently of a sacred elixir called soma, a plant-derived substance that granted visions, poetic inspiration, and communion with the gods, though its exact botanical identity remains a historical mystery. In ancient Greece, the heart of the mysteries, a powerful initiation ritual that promised profound spiritual revelation, centered on a ritual drink called. While its recipe is lost, scholars suggest it may have contained ergot, a fungus with mind-altering properties. In Egypt, depictions of the blue lotus flower in ceremonial contexts suggest it was used for its gentle psychoactive and meditative effects. The shared thread across these distant cultures is a deliberate, ritualized application of plant knowledge to achieve a specific, transcendent state of awareness. This was not recreational use, it was a sacred technology. The goal was consistent: to temporarily step outside ordinary perception for healing, for divination, for direct contact with spiritual realms, or to gain insight into the fundamental nature of reality. This points toward a science that was fundamentally holistic, one that did not separate the study of the physical world from the exploration of consciousness itself. For these ancient scholars, understanding the cosmos may have required not just observing the stars, but also journeying inward. The plants were their instruments, as precise as an astrolabe, their minds the laboratory. This science, the use of plants to generate the divine within, suggests they viewed reality as a multi-layered phenomenon, where spiritual insight was a form of valid data. The knowledge of which plants to use, how to prepare them, and the ceremonial framework to guide the experience would have been guarded, sacred information, passed down through initiatory lineages. Its global distribution, in such specific and complex forms, whispers of a shared, archaic understanding of the human mind's potential, a forgotten chapter in the manual of that lost civilization. It reminds us that their quest was for total knowledge, a unified understanding that wove together the celestial, the earthly, and the interior worlds into one seamless tapestry of meaning. Words may change and languages may drift apart, but symbols carry meaning across. This brings us to a seventh, more subtle clue, one etched not in stone, but in the very symbols our ancestors used to understand their world. Across continents, the same complex visual motifs appear again and again, as if different cultures were all sketching from the same ancient source image. Take the serpent devouring its own tail. We find it in Egyptian alchemy representing the cycle of life and death, in Norse mythology as the world serpent encircling the earth, and strikingly similar imagery in the feathered serpent deities of, often depicted in circular forms. This is not a simple shape like a circle. It is a specific, sophisticated idea of eternity, renewal, and the unity of all things, expressed through identical symbolic language. The same pattern holds for the pyramid, a shape representing ascension and the meeting of earth and sky from Giza to Mesopotamia to the steppe temples of Southeast Asia. The spiral, a symbol of cosmic energy and growth, adorns Celtic stones, Aboriginal rock art, and the temples of Malta. Even the swastika, long before its modern infamy, was a near-universal solar symbol representing the cyclical motion of the heavens, found in Native American petroglyphs, ancient Hindu temples, and early Christian Cataclysm. The global distribution of these specific, idea-laden symbols points to something deeper than parallel artistic development. It suggests a shared symbolic vocabulary, a kind of conceptual shorthand for understanding profound principles. This symbolic resonance extends tentatively into spoken language as well. While linguists rightly warn of false cognates, some curious echoes persist. The simple syllable ma, signifying mother, the primal source, appears in countless languages, from Latin mater to Sanskrit to the Mandarin ma. More intriguingly, this same root often intertwines with concepts of measurement and the material world, as in the word matter. Could this hint at an archaic association between the generative mother and the substance of creation itself? The most compelling linguistic argument, however, lies not in single words, but in the universal association of certain symbols with complex ideas. The serpent, for instance, is almost globally linked not with evil, but with wisdom, healing, and the mysterious life force. In ancient Greece, the serpent was the symbol of Asclepius, the god of medicine. In the Ayurvedic tradition of India, the Kundalini energy is depicted as a coiled serpent at the base of the spine. The feathered serpent was a bringer of knowledge and civilization. This consistent, multi-layered symbolism is unlikely to have sprung up independently dozens of times. It feels more like an inherited doctrine. This leads to a fascinating possibility. If a sophisticated global science existed before the great diversification of our modern languages, how was its knowledge communicated and preserved? The answer may lie in a proto-symbolic code. Before complex writing systems, a standardized set of symbols, like a universal ideographic language, could have been used to convey core principles of astronomy, geometry, and natural philosophy. This symbolic lingua franca would have been taught in initiatory schools or preserved by priestly castes, transcending local dialects. The pyramid shape was not just a building, it was a glyph for celestial ascent. There was a formula for cyclical time. The serpent was a diagram of spiritual energy. These symbols were the conceptual glue that bound together their unified understanding of reality, a visual grammar for the lost science. When we look at these recurring symbols today, we are not just seeing decoration. We may be looking at the faded pages of that original, global instruction manual, written in a language of images that our conscious minds have forgotten how to read, but that our collective memory still recognizes. The vast oceans that separate continents may have been the very connective tissue of this lost world. To imagine a global science, we must solve the practical puzzle of how such knowledge could travel across hemispheres, and the evidence points toward a startling answer: a forgotten age of exploration long before Columbus or Magellan. The maritime capabilities of ancient cultures are undeniable. From the reed boats of Mesopotamia, designed for river and coastal trade, to the sophisticated papyrus rafts of the Egyptians capable of navigating the open sea, to the massive balsa wood sailing rafts built by the Moche culture of South America, we see a worldwide pattern of advanced nautical engineering. These were not crude canoes, but vessels built with a deep understanding of buoyancy, materials, and sail dynamics, designed for serious, long-distance journeys. The construction of such craft implies a body of shared shipbuilding science, a global curriculum in how to conquer the waves. More controversial, but deeply intriguing, are the scattered artifacts that suggest these voyages may have reached further than we ever thought. Stones bearing inscriptions resembling Old World scripts, like the debated Bat Creek stone found in Tennessee, or the contested analysis suggesting traces of South American coca plants in some ancient Egyptian remains, ignite fierce academic debate. While mainstream scholarship urges extreme caution with such finds, their persistence raises a haunting question. What if we are finding only the faintest, most ambiguous echoes of a once routine exchange? The most compelling evidence, however, may lie not in objects but in maps. The infamous map, compiled by an Ottoman admiral in the 1500s from older source charts, depicts the coastline of South America with remarkable accuracy. Even more astonishingly, it appears to show a landmass where Antarctica lies, with topographic features resembling the continent's subglacial coastline, a shape hidden under miles of ice for thousands of years. Similarly, the enigmatic portolan charts of the medieval period display a precision in coastlines and latitudes that seems to leapfrog the navigational knowledge of their time. These maps feel like copies of copies, fragments of a far older cartographic tradition derived from explorers who charted the world in deep antiquity. To create such maps requires more than brave sailors. It demands a formidable scientific toolkit. Accurate longitude requires precise celestial observation and timekeeping. Charting coastlines demands systematic surveying. Understanding prevailing winds and ocean currents like the Atlantic's gyre or the Pacific's currents implies generations of accumulated oceanic data. This points to a sustained, purposeful tradition of exploration, not accidental drift voyages. If such long-distance travel was possible, even routine, it rewrites the entire narrative of human history. Suddenly, the oceans transform from insurmountable barriers into ancient highways. A master astronomer in Mesopotamia could share star charts with a temple builder in Peru. A geometer from the Indus Valley could exchange principles with an engineer in Cambodia. The shared knowledge of megalithic construction, celestial alignment, and sacred mathematics finds a practical delivery mechanism. The ship itself becomes a floating repository of this global science, carrying not just goods, but ideas, blueprints, and skilled individuals. This vision of an interconnected ancient world, linked by sea routes we are only beginning to comprehend, provides the missing logistical piece to our puzzle. It suggests the lost civilization was not a single, centralized empire, but a networked web of cultures, a maritime fellowship sharing a common vision under different stars. Their greatest monuments, then, were not isolated triumphs, but perhaps deliberate waypoints, celestial lighthouses, and shared temples built according to a universal plan, a plan carried across the deep blue highways of a world they knew was one. This guarded transmission of wisdom reveals a ninth, deeply structural clue. The most profound secrets of the ancient world were not inscribed on public monuments, but whispered within the confines of secret societies and mystery schools. From the sun temples of Heliopolis in Egypt to the forest groves of the Celtic Druids, from the Vedic schools of the Indian Brahmins to the shamanic lodges of Siberia and the Americas, a remarkably similar blueprint for knowledge transfer emerges. These were not casual gatherings, but rigorous, hierarchical institutions designed to filter and cultivate the mind. Admission was never guaranteed. It was earned through a demanding process of purification, testing, and staged revelation. The initiate would undergo a symbolic journey, often framed as a death and rebirth, a profound psychological experience meant to sever the individual from their old worldview and prepare them to receive a new one. This was the universal gateway. The knowledge imparted behind these sealed doors was equally consistent, a curriculum encompassing the true motions of the stars, the hidden properties of plants and minerals, the principles of sacred geometry, and perhaps most importantly, a unified vision of reality where spirit and matter were intertwined. This global pattern of esoteric education is a powerful sociological fingerprint. It tells us the lost global science was not a common tool like a hammer or a plow, accessible to all. It was a sacred trust, a dangerous power considered too potent for the unprepared. Its preservation, therefore, required more than stone libraries. It demanded living libraries, disciplined human lineages sworn to protect and correctly interpret the knowledge across generations. These mystery schools became the custodians of the flame. They were the keepers of the original manual, and their primary teaching method was not through open lecture, but through encoded experience. They hid the core truths within the layers of an elaborate myth, like the story of Osiris or Demeter, where the listener had to decipher the allegory to find the astronomical or agricultural principle. They embedded mathematical constants into the proportions of their temples, so that to walk the sacred space was to unconsciously absorb the lesson. The ritual itself was the textbook, and the initiation was the final exam. The sheer uniformity of this system, from its structure to its symbolic language, across cultures that supposedly never met, is difficult to explain through independent invention. It feels instead like the diffusion of a template. Each culture received the same core syllabus, the same understanding that this knowledge required a protected container, and then adapted the outer forms, the names of the gods, and the local rituals to fit their people. The Egyptian hierophant, the Druidic bard, the Vedic rishi, and the Siberian shaman were, in a profound sense, colleagues in the same ancient university, teaching different dialects of the same universal science of consciousness and cosmos. Their enduring legacy is the clearest signal that the most valuable treasure of that lost world was not gold or granite, but a way of seeing, a lens for understanding existence that was carefully passed, hand to hand, from one age to the next, waiting for a time when the world might be ready to remember its lessons. Sound itself may have been their most precise tool. A 10th, deeply resonant clue is emerging from the silent stones of ancient sites, not from what we see, but from what we hear, or rather, what these structures were designed to hear. Modern researchers visiting these places are discovering they are not just visual marvels, they are sophisticated acoustic instruments. Inside the granite confines of the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid, the space resonates at a specific, low frequency, a hum that seems to vibrate within the chest. In Ireland, the long stone passageway and inner chamber amplify and transform sound in ways that feel deliberate, almost ceremonial. Perhaps the most famous example is at the Mayan Pyramid of At. If you clap your hands at the base of the staircase, the echo that returns is not a dull thud, but a crisp, chirping sound that eerily mimics the call of the sacred Quetzal bird, a creature deeply woven into their mythology. This is not an accident of architecture. It is acoustic engineering. Across the world, from the domes of Hindu temples designed to amplify and prolong the sacred syllable Om, to the subterranean chambers of Malta that resonate at frequencies believed to affect brainwave patterns, we find a consistent principle: the built environment was tuned. This points to a sophisticated ancient science of acoustics, and perhaps an understanding of the study of how sound frequencies shape physical matter. We can observe this today. Sprinkling sand on a metal plate and playing a specific tone causes the sand to form intricate, geometric patterns. The ancients may have grasped this fundamental truth, that vibration is the bedrock of form. They might have understood that specific sounds could do more than create patterns in sand. They could influence the human body, potentially promoting healing or altering states of consciousness. And some researchers speculate they might have even used resonant frequencies to soften stone or aid in its precise shaping. This application transforms their architecture from mere shelter into a kind of therapeutic technology. A temple was not just a place to pray, It was a device calibrated to harmonize the visitor with the vibrational fabric of the universe. The chanting, the ringing of bells, the strategic placement of stones to create echoes, all of it was part of a deliberate sensory curriculum. The global occurrence of this acoustic intent is profound. It means that the architects in Egypt, Ireland, Mexico, and India all shared a common chapter in their manual, one that explained the invisible power of vibration. Their science was not compartmentalized, it was beautifully, holistically integrated. Physics, spirituality, biology, and architecture were all expressions of the same vibrational reality. To stand in these spaces in silence is to miss half their function. We must learn to listen to the past, to hear the frequencies they built into their world. For in that resonant hum, we may finally perceive the depth of their understanding, a science that treated sound as a tangible force for shaping both matter and mind. But what if the proof is sitting in a museum drawer, labeled and yet unexplained? Scattered through the archives of archaeology, often dismissed as curiosities or anomalies, lie objects that refuse to fit our timeline. These are the out-of-place artifacts, the physical puzzles that most directly challenge the story we tell ourselves about the past. They are not alignments or symbols, but solid, tangible things that seem to belong to a different age entirely. The most famous is likely the Baghdad Battery. Discovered in Iraq and dated to the Parthian period around 2,000 years ago, it consists of a simple clay jar, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod. When filled with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, it functions as a basic galvanic cell, capable of producing a small electrical charge. Mainstream archaeology often interprets it as a storage vessel for sacred scrolls, yet its construction perfectly mirrors the principles of a primitive battery. If it was indeed a battery, what was its purpose? Some researchers suggest it could have been used for electroplating, to deposit a thin layer of gold or silver onto objects, a subtle technology that leaves little trace for modern excavators. Then there are objects like the artifact, a find that remains deeply controversial. In the 1960s, a geode was cracked open in California to reveal what appeared to be a modern spark plug encased inside ancient rock. While many experts have since argued it is a 20th century spark plug embedded in a concretion, not a true geode, the initial mystery and the fervent debate it sparked highlight our deep discomfort with technological anachronisms. It is crucial to approach such claims with extreme skepticism, as many alleged out-of-place artifacts have proven to be hoaxes, misidentifications, or later objects that settled into older layers. But the persistent few that withstand initial scrutiny create a legitimate puzzle. Consider the mechanism we discussed earlier, a device so advanced it was initially considered a modern contamination. Or the intricate, microscopically precise gold threads found in ancient Egyptian jewelry, work that seems to demand lenses or tools of magnification we do not believe they possessed. These objects are not evidence of a full-blown industrial civilization, but they hint at something perhaps more intriguing, sporadic flashes of specific, advanced technical knowledge. They suggest that certain ancient cultures, drawing from that deeper well of inherited science, achieved isolated technological peaks in fields like electrochemistry, precision mechanics, or optics. These peaks were not part of a continuous, linear evolution toward our modern world. They were brilliant, specific applications that later faded, their purposes forgotten, their principles lost, leaving behind only the baffling artifact as a clue. These objects are the smoking guns of the mystery. They force a simple, uncomfortable question: if our historical model is complete, why do we keep finding things that do not belong? Each one is a whisper from the past, a tangible piece of evidence that someone, somewhere, long ago, knew more than the history books say they should have. They remind us that the past is not a neatly solved equation, but a living puzzle, and the most exciting discoveries may still be waiting in a dusty storage box, waiting for us to ask the right question. Perhaps the ultimate clue is not a technique or a tool, but a way of thinking. The most defining characteristic of this hypothesized global science was its refusal to separate the material from the sacred. For us today, science, religion, and art often occupy different rooms in the house of knowledge. For them, these were all doors leading into the same grand hall. Their entire intellectual framework was dualistic, viewing astronomy, geometry, medicine, and theology as interconnected threads in a single shimmering tapestry of cosmic order. We see this principle named and revered across the ancient world. In Egypt, it was Ti, the concept of cosmic truth, balance, and harmony that governed both the stars and the human heart. In China, it was the Tao, the ineffable flow and pattern of the universe that one could learn to move with. In Vedic India, it was the eternal rhythmic order underlying all natural phenomena. These were not vague spiritual ideas. They were treated as the fundamental laws of a living, intelligent cosmos. Their science, therefore, was a sacred endeavor to map this order and to consciously participate within it. This explains the seamless integration we find everywhere. A healer was not just a botanist, they were an astrologer and a priest, understanding that an illness might stem from a planetary influence, be treated with a specific herb, and require a ritual to restore spiritual balance. A temple was not just a place of worship, it was a working model of the heavens, its proportions encoding celestial mathematics meant to harmonize the space with divine principles. This is why the clues to their science are not found in dry technical manuals, but etched into the walls of initiation chambers, woven into the plots of their great myths, and performed in their most solemn rituals. For them, studying the precession of the equinoxes was as much a spiritual act as a mathematical one, because it revealed the grand, slow breath of the cosmos itself. Building a pyramid with perfect alignment was an act of devotion, a way of anchoring a piece of human ambition into the eternal framework of Ti. This holistic framework is the master key that makes sense of all the other clues. It explains why the same geometric shapes appear in both mandalas and megaliths, why the same plants were used for both chemistry and communion, why the same stars were tracked for both planting crops and understanding destiny. There was no conflict between science and religion, because their science was a form of deepest reverence, and their religion was a practical science of consciousness. This integrated worldview may have been the very engine that drove their most profound discoveries. The motivation was not merely utility or power, but a profound yearning to understand and align with the source of all that is. This sacred curiosity, this drive to see the unity behind the diversity, could have fueled a patience and a depth of observation that our more fragmented modern perspective struggles to achieve. It is this foundational coherence, this sense of a complete and living system, that makes the scattered fragments we find across cultures feel not like random similarities, but like pieces of a single, shattered mirror, each reflecting a portion of the same brilliant, unified light. The stars hold a calendar far older than any written history. That slow, majestic wobble of our planet's axis, the precession of the equinoxes, traces a circle in the heavens every 25,920 years, a span the ancients called the Great Year. To perceive this shift is a staggering intellectual feat, requiring the patient recording of star positions not just over a lifetime, but over hundreds of generations. Yet this grand celestial rhythm is encoded with astonishing precision in myths and monuments across the globe. It is as if every major ancient culture was listening to the same deep, slow tick of a cosmic clock. In the Vedic traditions of India, the wheel of time turns through the four yugas, vast ages of descending and ascending spiritual quality that align perfectly with the phases of precession. The zodiac of the Babylonians was not just a belt of constellations, but a map of this great cycle, with the spring equinox sun slowly migrating from one house to the next over. The Egyptian myth of the phoenix, which dies in flames and is reborn from its own ashes every 500 years, echoes the cyclical renewal of the ages. Even the Greek philosopher Plato wrote of a great year, a complete period of celestial return that brings profound change to the world. These are not separate stories. They are different cultural dialects describing the same astronomical reality. This long-term consciousness is literally set in stone. The most famous and debated example is the Great Sphinx of Giza. Some researchers, like Robert and Graham, have proposed that its leonine form was designed to gaze directly at its celestial counterpart, the constellation Leo, on the spring equinox around 10,500 years before the Common Era. Whether one accepts that specific date or not, the architectural evidence for precessional marking is compelling. The three main pyramids of Giza are arranged on the ground in a pattern that mirrors the three stars of Orion's belt in the sky, but as they would have appeared around 10,500 BCE. The temples of Angkor Wat in Cambodia are laid out as a terrestrial map of the constellation Draco from that same remote epoch. These monuments were not just tombs or temples, they were permanent anchors in the flow of cosmic time, stone diaries marking humanity's place in an epoch-spanning narrative. The implication is profound. A culture that builds markers for a 26,000-year cycle is not thinking in terms of kings or harvests. It is thinking in geological and mythological time. They possessed a science that conceived of history in vast, repeating arcs, perhaps understanding that earthly conditions, from climate to consciousness, shift with the turning of the great wheel. This was astronomy fused with a prophetic vision, a warning or a promise etched into the alignment of stone with star. To master precession, they needed more than advanced math. They needed an unbroken chain of observation, a sacred duty passed from priest to priest, from shaman to shaman, for longer than our entire recorded history. This points to the existence of a dedicated, long-term custodial society, a global fellowship of sky watchers who preserved this most precious knowledge of the ages, ensuring that even after a great cataclysm, the next civilization would find a way to set its clock by the eternal stars. Water is the first and most essential technology for any civilization. While their eyes were fixed on the stars, the ancient masters of this lost science also possessed a profound, earthbound genius for harnessing the most vital element of all. From the deserts of Persia to the plains of the Indus, a 14th clue emerges from beneath the soil, a global testament to advanced hydraulic engineering and water management. These were not simple irrigation ditches, but monumental, precision systems that transformed hostile landscapes into fertile, sustainable homes for millions. Consider the qanats of ancient Persia, a breathtaking network of gently sloping underground tunnels that tapped into mountain aquifers and channeled water across vast arid distances without a single pump, using only gravity and a masterful understanding of geology. On the other side of the world, the culture of Peru, famous for their enigmatic desert lines, built sophisticated subterranean aqueducts called spiral stone shafts that accessed underground water tables to sustain life in one of the driest places on Earth. In Cambodia, the sprawling metropolis of Angkor was sustained by massive, or reservoirs, and a canal system so extensive it functioned as a hydraulic city, regulating flood and drought cycles with seasonal precision. And in the Indus Valley, we find a Bronze Age city with a municipal water and sewer system rivaling those of 19th century Europe, complete with public baths, covered drains, and individual household wells. The scale and sophistication of these projects reveal a deep, shared science. It was a science of slope and flow, of understanding water pressure and filtration, of mapping subterranean geology to find life-giving veins in the stone. This knowledge was clearly systematic, a repeatable set of principles for locating, moving, and preserving water on a scale. But as with everything in this unified worldview, the practical was never separate from the sacred. These water systems were often meticulously integrated into a larger ceremonial design. Canals and reservoirs were frequently aligned to cardinal points or to mirror celestial patterns, turning the flow of water into a reflection of cosmic order. The placement of a sacred spring or the direction of an aqueduct might follow principles of geomancy, aligning with telluric energies or sacred mountains. Water was not just a resource, it was a spiritual conductor, a physical manifestation of the life force that sustained both the body of the city and the spirit of its people. The global footprint of this hydrological mastery is unmistakable. It represents the applied, life-sustaining branch of the global science. This was knowledge directed toward harmonizing with the very pulse of the planet, a pragmatic environmental science that allowed humanity to not just survive, but to thrive and build its grandest visions. It shows a civilization thinking in terms of centuries, engineering landscapes to support future generations. Their genius lay in this seamless blend, where a water channel was both a feat of engineering and a sacred artery, where every drop was measured by both its utility and its place within a living, holy geography. The stories we tell about our beginnings are perhaps the most revealing clue of all. Woven into the foundational myths of cultures separated by oceans, there exists a hauntingly consistent memory, a whispered legend of a golden age. The ancient Egyptians spoke of the first time when the gods walked the earth and established perfect order. Hindu scriptures describe the Yuga, an epic of truth and harmony where humanity lived in peace and possessed profound spiritual knowledge. The Greeks longed for the lost age of, a time of abundance without toil or conflict. Even in the far north, Norse mythology recalls a primeval age of creation and wisdom before the world tree was shaken. This is not a collection of simple, hopeful fables. The sheer universality of this narrative, appearing in the oral traditions and sacred texts of peoples who supposedly never met, points to something deeper than coincidence. It feels like a shared cultural memory, an echo of a real historical experience passed down through generations, slowly transforming fact into symbol. These legends are rarely vague fantasies of a better past, they are remarkably specific. They consistently describe a period when divine or highly advanced beings directly instructed humanity, gifting us the foundational arts of civilization, agriculture, law, writing, and crucially, science. Then the story always turns. Through some great failing, a cataclysm, or the slow turning of a cosmic wheel, that golden era ends, and humanity enters a diminished age, a silver or bronze epoch, struggling to remember what was once known. This narrative template is a perfect mythological mirror for the archaeological hypothesis we have been exploring. The legends provide the story, and the stones provide the evidence. They tell us that the ancient builders themselves did not believe they were the brilliant originators of their own science, but rather the grateful inheritors, the careful custodians of a grand tradition handed down from a more enlightened time. This perspective fundamentally reshapes how we view their achievements. The Great Pyramid is not a testament to what Egyptian civilization suddenly invented, but to what it desperately sought to preserve and replicate from a lost blueprint. The precise astronomical alignments across the globe were not independent discoveries, but fragments of a celestial map drawn in a much older era. This collective memory of a superior past acts as the cultural glue that binds all the physical clues together. It explains the reverence for ancient knowledge, the obsessive encoding of principles into myth and monument, and the global urge to build structures that seem to reach back toward that first time. When an Egyptian priest performed a ritual to restore tea, or a Hindu sage meditated on the cycles of the yugas, they were not engaging in abstract philosophy. They were participating in a living tradition of remembrance. They were keeping the flame of that golden epoch alive, hoping to guide their society back toward its light. This persistent legend is therefore a non-material artifact of immense power. It is the story the ancients told themselves about who they were and where they came from, and it aligns with a startling possibility that before our recorded history began, there was another chapter, a peak of human understanding that left its imprint not only in megalithic stone and celestial mathematics, but in the very dreams of every civilization that followed. The memory of that golden age may be the most durable relic of all, surviving long after the cities drowned and the machines fell silent, waiting in our oldest stories to be understood not as myth, but as history. This concept moves beyond isolated sites to the entire planetary canvas. A 16th, breathtaking clue emerges from the placement of monuments themselves, suggesting the ancients didn't just build on the Earth. They mapped its very form with a science of global measurement called Geodesy. Astonishingly, several key ancient sites appear positioned according to a hidden global geometry. The Great Pyramid of Giza, for instance, sits at the intersection of the longest land meridian and the longest land parallel, effectively making it the center of the Earth's continental landmass. This is a geographical fact, not a mystical claim, and the statistical odds of such a precise placement occurring by chance are vanishingly small. Furthermore, scholars like Charles and others have long argued that the pyramid's dimensions encode the planet's circumference and polar radius. When you multiply its original height by a specific, round number, you get a figure remarkably close to the polar radius of the Earth. Its perimeter relates in a similar way to the equatorial circumference. Whether these encodings were intentional or a series of staggering coincidences is hotly debated, but the pattern invites profound questions. This sense of a planetary blueprint extends to the controversial but persistent idea of lines, or alignments of sacred sites across great distances. While mainstream archaeology often dismisses these as selective pattern finding, the sheer number of these alignments across different cultures is difficult to ignore. In Australia, Aboriginal are both navigational routes and ceremonial pathways connecting sacred sites that tell the story of creation ancestors. In Britain, ancient stone circles, burial mounds, and hill forts often fall in startling straight lines across the landscape. This points to a potential ancient practice of geomancy, the art of aligning human structures with perceived telluric energies or spiritual pathways in the land itself. More concretely, and less controversially, we have the precise latitudinal placement of certain monuments. The Great Pyramid is situated at exactly 30 degrees north latitude. The ancient city of in Bolivia aligns with a key latitude related to Earth's axial tilt. Such precision implies an ability to measure the Earth's curvature and determine one's position upon it with great accuracy, long before the Greek scholar Eratosthenes is credited with calculating the planet's circumference. This is not about folklore, it's about practical mathematical science. The implications of this are staggering. To possess geodetic knowledge means you understand the Earth as a spherical body. You can calculate its size, map its features, and determine exact locations upon its surface. This knowledge is the absolute prerequisite for coordinated, long-distance navigation and for the establishment of a planet-spanning network of sites. It transforms the collection of mysterious ruins from isolated wonders into potential nodes on a great, ancient web. If true, this represents the ultimate expression of a global science. It means the architects of this lost world were not just building temples, they were inscribing their understanding onto the very body of the planet. They were turning the Earth itself into a grand temple and a living textbook, with each sacred site serving as a page written in stone and aligned to the stars. Their map was the world, and their compass was the cosmos. This leads us to perhaps the most practical and enduring mystery of all, the very materials they used. For to inscribe such a permanent message upon the Earth, they needed a medium that could defy time itself, a secret locked not in placement, but in substance. The serpent and the cosmic egg form a symbolic pair found at the heart of countless ancient traditions. This is not a vague similarity, but a precise and recurring allegory that seems to teach a specific lesson about the nature of reality. In the feathered serpent is the bringer of knowledge and civilization, a being that bridges the earth and the sky. In the Vedic and yogic traditions of India, the serpent represents Kundalini, the primal spiritual energy coiled at the base of the human spine, which, when awakened, rises to bring enlightenment. Even in the classical world, the caduceus, a staff entwined by two, remains a universal symbol of healing and balance. The serpent, across these cultures, consistently embodies a transformative force, a latent energy that holds the potential for profound change, whether in the individual body or the body of the cosmos. Its partner in this universal symbolism is the cosmic egg. From the Orphic myths of Greece to the creation stories of ancient Egypt, China, and Polynesia, the universe itself is described as emerging from a primordial egg, a state of pure, undifferentiated potential. This is the womb of all existence, the silent moment before the Big Bang of myth. When we place these two symbols together, their meaning becomes astonishingly clear. They form a complete metaphysical equation. The cosmic egg is the potential, the field of all possibility. The serpent is the dynamic, coiled energy within that field, the spark that initiates creation and the force that drives evolution and awakening. This is not merely a poetic image. It is a sophisticated model of cosmogony, the study of the universe's origin and of consciousness itself. It teaches that creation is not an event that happened once, but an ongoing process fueled by a living energy within the fabric of reality. The global prevalence of this specific symbolic complex is a powerful clue. It suggests that this was not a random artistic motif, but a core piece of instructional imagery within the lost global science. Just as we might use a diagram of an atom to teach physics, they used the serpent and the egg to teach metaphysics. It was a symbolic code that transcended language, a visual shorthand for principles that were considered too profound, or perhaps too experiential, to be fully captured in words alone. This code was a piece of spiritual software, designed to be installed in the mind of an initiate through meditation, ritual, and contemplation. To understand the egg was to grasp the concept of the unified field. To work with the symbolism of the serpent, as in Kundalini practices, was to learn to interact with that field personally, to harness that inner energy for transformation. This universal symbolism reinforces the holistic nature of their knowledge, where understanding the cosmos and understanding the self were seen as two sides of the same sacred coin. The serpent and the egg were their way of mapping the journey from potential to manifestation, from sleep to awakening, teaching that the power to shape reality lies dormant within the heart of all things, waiting only for the conscious spark to bring it to life. The human body itself became a sacred text for this ancient science. A profound understanding of health and healing forms an 18th clue, found not in temples, but in the very bones and medical texts of our ancestors. Across the globe, we see evidence of a medical tradition that was remarkably advanced, holistic, and surprisingly invasive. In the highlands of ancient Peru, Inca surgeons performed a delicate operation known as trepanation, carefully removing a section of the skull to relieve pressure or treat illness. Archaeological evidence shows that patients often survived this procedure, their skulls showing clear signs of healing. Thousands of miles away, and earlier prehistoric communities in Europe were practicing the same technique with similar success. This was not crude experimentation, but a precise, practiced surgical art that understood both the risks and the potential for saving lives. The knowledge went far deeper than surgery. The papyrus from ancient Egypt, a medical document over 3,500 years old, details sophisticated diagnoses for various conditions, along with complex herbal prescriptions and even rudimentary understandings of the circulatory system, referring to vessels that carried air, blood, and water throughout the body. Meanwhile, in India, the system of Ayurveda was developing a comprehensive model of health based on the balance of three fundamental energies or doshas, linking diet, lifestyle, and herbal medicine to the individual's unique constitution. In China, traditional Chinese medicine mapped the flow of a vital life force, qi, through a network of meridians, using acupuncture to restore balance and promote healing. What is truly remarkable is the underlying similarity in these globally dispersed systems. Whether they spoke of balancing bodily humors, harmonizing yin and yang, or aligning the doshas, they all viewed illness as a state of imbalance within a dynamic, energetic system. The human body was seen as a microcosm of the universe, its internal energies mirroring the larger forces of nature and the cosmos. This was medicine fully integrated with the other branches of the lost science. An Egyptian physician would consider astrological influences when making a diagnosis. An Ayurvedic practitioner would understand the connection between seasonal cycles and bodily rhythms. A Chinese doctor might select acupuncture points based on the time of day or phase of the moon, seeing the body as a landscape interacting with celestial currents. This points to a common root, a shared empirical and theoretical framework that understood health as a state of harmony between the individual and the cosmos. The development of such complex, internally consistent medical philosophies, each with its own detailed and diagnostic techniques, is unlikely to have sprung up independently in perfect parallel. It feels more like the branching of a single, ancient tree of knowledge. Different cultures received the core principle that life is sustained by a subtle energy and that healing requires restoring its natural flow. And then they cultivated that seed with their local plants, their own terminology, and their cultural practices. This medical legacy, still vibrant and in use today, is perhaps the most intimate evidence of that lost global science, a science that sought to heal not just the body in isolation, but the human being as a complete participant in a living, intelligent universe. The silent language of measurement whispers another chapter of this story. To build a temple or trade across continents, you need a common tongue, a way to ensure a stone block cut in one quarry will fit perfectly in a wall 100 miles away, or that a merchant in one port trusts the weight of silver from another. This 19th clue lies in the ancient world's rulers and scales, in the puzzle of uniform weights and measures that appear across disconnected cultures. It is the metrology of the masters, the standardized system that would have been essential for any coordinated global science. Researcher Alexander, after surveying hundreds of Neolithic stone circles across Britain and France, proposed the existence of what he called the megalithic yard, a unit of length approximately 2.72 of our modern feet. He found this same measurement, with startling consistency, encoded in the diameters and perimeters of sites separated by vast distances and centuries. Whether this precise unit was universally intentional is debated, but the pattern of sophisticated, repeated geometry is undeniable. It suggests the builders were working from a shared blueprint, a common set of architectural proportions. This pattern of connection deepens when we look at the classical measures of the ancient world. The Egyptian royal cubit, the standard used to build the pyramids, and the Sumerian shekel, a unit of weight, are not random. They exist in a harmonious mathematical relationship with each other and with the dimensions of the Earth itself. Some researchers have demonstrated that the cubit, when by specific, round numbers, relates directly to the polar circumference of our planet. This is not to say an Egyptian architect was consciously calculating the Earth's size with every brick he laid, but it suggests the unit he inherited was derived from a far older geodetic science, a science that understood our world as a measurable sphere. The most universal standard of all, of course, was the human body, the foot, the span, the cubit based on the forearm. Every culture did this independently, which makes perfect sense. But the mystery emerges in the precise ratios, the way these body-based units from different civilizations sometimes align not just in concept, but in exact proportion. It is as if separate cultures were all using slightly different dialects of the same fundamental language of length and weight. This points toward two compelling possibilities. The first is the diffusion of a standard system from a common source. A master set of measures, perhaps based on the fractions of the Earth's rotation or circumference, was carried by those ancient mariners and taught to new cultures, who then adapted it to their own anatomy and needs, preserving the core ratios. The second possibility is just as profound: the independent discovery of a measurement system based on the natural proportions of the cosmos and the human form. This would imply that the same universal constants, the same harmonic mathematics, led different thinkers to converge on nearly identical solutions. In either case, the result is a pragmatic, working testament to a coordinated intellectual tradition. These were not primitive guesses. A standardized metrology is the bedrock of advanced society. It allows for the precise engineering of megalithic structures, the fair conduct of long-distance trade, and the accurate recording of astronomical data. The cubit rod and the balance scale were as crucial to the ancient master builder as his chisel. They were the physical manifestation of an agreement, a shared understanding of quantity and space that transcended local language. When we find these harmonious units echoed from the British Isles to the banks of the Nile, we are likely finding the faded but still legible signature of that lost science, a science that first had to measure the world accurately before it could hope to build in harmony with it. The very shape of their sacred spaces tells a deliberate story. Across every continent, the most enduring monuments of the ancient world are not random forms. They are deliberate architectural echoes of the two most fundamental landscapes in human experience: the mountain and the cave. The Pyramid of Giza, the Ziggurat of Ur, the steppe temples of, and the Buddhist stupa all share a single, unmistakable identity. They are artificial mountains, meticulously constructed ascents aimed at the heavens. Conversely, the dark, enclosed spaces of the tomb, the subterranean crypt, the initiation chamber carved deep into bedrock, and the labyrinthine catacomb all serve as symbolic caves, representing a descent into the womb of the earth, the realm of the ancestors, or the underworld. This was not a mere aesthetic choice. It was a profound cosmological statement built in stone. It represents a universal understanding of polarity, of the fundamental journey that defines existence, the upward reach toward spirit and the stars, and the inward descent into matter, mystery, and the self. Their architecture physically mapped the two primary directions of the sacred quest. This symbolic duality served far more than a ritual purpose. It had deeply practical, even scientific, functions rooted in their holistic understanding of the world. The artificial mountain, particularly the pyramid form, has long been theorized to be more than a tomb or temple. Some researchers suggest it was a kind of energy-focusing structure. The precise geometry and specific materials, like the granite and limestone used at Giza, may have been chosen to interact with the Earth's natural telluric currents or even with subtle atmospheric energies, acting as a stable, monumental capacitor or resonator. The shape itself, converging to a single point, seems designed to channel attention and perhaps energy upward. In stark contrast, the symbolic cave, the underground chamber, provided a perfect environment of natural stability. The temperature and humidity deep within the earth remain constant, creating an ideal space for the preservation of delicate artifacts, sacred texts, or even for the intricate process of initiation. These chambers offered sensory deprivation, a quieting of the external world that allowed the initiate to turn their awareness wholly inward, a controlled environment for profound psychological and spiritual experience. The King's Chamber deep within the Great Pyramid perfectly embodies this synthesis. It is a sealed, granite cave housed inside an artificial mountain, a space designed for both energetic resonance and interior transformation. The global and consistent adoption of this mountain and cave metaphor is one of the clearest clues to a shared symbolic language. From the jungles of Cambodia to the deserts of Egypt, cultures that supposedly never communicated all arrived at the same architectural solution for housing the sacred. This suggests they were not just building shelters for their gods, they were constructing three-dimensional models of their universe, according to a common blueprint. To walk the processional way up the steep side of a ziggurat was to reenact the soul's ascent to the celestial realms. To be led blindfolded into a dark, subterranean chamber for initiation was to symbolically die to the old self and enter the fertile darkness from which new understanding could be born. Their buildings were experiential tools, designed to teach through the body itself. You didn't just hear about the journey to the stars, you physically climbed toward them. You didn't just listen to a myth of descent and rebirth, you underwent a version of it in a carefully engineered environment. This architectural code reveals a science that seamlessly blended cosmology with practical psychology. They understood that environment shapes consciousness, that the spaces we inhabit directly influence how we think and what we feel. By building a universe in miniature, with its symbolic sky above and underworld below, they created a stage upon which the individual could consciously play out the greatest drama, the integration of heaven and earth within their own being. The mountain peak touched the realm of pure idea and celestial order, while the cave connected to the primal, chthonic forces of life and death. To move between these spaces, as their rituals demanded, was to learn balance, to embody the full spectrum of existence. In the end, their most silent stones speak the loudest, declaring that for this lost science, true knowledge was not found in a scroll alone, but in the lived, physical experience of moving through a world they had deliberately shaped into a teacher. The stars were not just points of light, they were characters in a story told around the world. A hunter strides across the winter sky in Greece, his belt of 3 bright stars unmistakable. Across the Atlantic, the Maya looked at that same alignment and saw the 3 hearthstones of creation, the cosmic fireplace from which all life emerged. This is more than a simple case of connecting dots. It is the persistence of narrative, a shared celestial mythology that forms a profound 21st clue. The constellation we call Orion is almost universally recognized as a masculine, often heroic, figure. The Pleiades cluster, that tiny shimmering group, is consistently tied to themes of fertility, sowing seasons, and groups of sisters or maidens from Aboriginal Australia to Native America to ancient Japan. These are not random associations. They are specific, complex stories attached to specific star patterns by cultures that history claims never communicated. The odds of this happening by pure chance are vanishingly small. It points instead to a very old layer of storytelling, a foundational stratum of human culture that viewed the night sky as a grand, instructive myth. These star myths were far more than entertainment. They were the living textbooks of a pre-literate science. The story of Orion pursuing the Pleiades across the sky, found in both Greek and Maori tradition, elegantly encodes their relative motion and seasonal visibility. The myth becomes a mnemonic device, a way to remember that when the hunter rises, the sisters are soon to follow, signaling a specific time for planting or for a ceremonial gathering. In this way, complex astronomical data and crucial agricultural calendars were embedded into memorable, transmissible narratives. The constellation lore acted as the narrative companion to the hard, silent data of stone alignments. The pyramid might mark the solstice sunrise, but the myth of the sun god's rebirth explained why it mattered, weaving the celestial event into the cultural and spiritual life of the people. This shared celestial vocabulary suggests a common origin point, a proto-astronomy carried out of Africa by the earliest human migrations, or later disseminated across the globe by those ancient mariners who understood the stars as their map. Each culture then adapted the core characters and plots to fit their local environment and values, but the archetypes remained recognizable. The Great Bear, the Serpent, the Boat, the Twins, these celestial actors appear on stages continents apart. This legacy of star myths reveals the ultimate goal of that lost global science. It was not merely to observe the cosmos, but to integrate it. The science was not cold calculation, it was a warm story. It taught that human life, from the planting of a seed to the fate of a hero, was intimately connected to the grand dance above. The stars were ancestors, guides, and moral exemplars. To learn their stories was to learn your place in a vast, ordered, and meaningful universe. This narrative layer may be the most beautiful and enduring fragment of all, a testament to a time when science and soul were sung under the same stars. The legend of the crystal skull is a story wrapped in layers of modern mystery and ancient whispers. While many of the famous examples have been revealed as clever modern carvings, the idea itself, the persistent myth of a perfect quartz skull holding profound knowledge, taps into a deeper current within the lost global science. It points toward a potential understanding of materials that goes far beyond simple carving, into the realm of energy itself. Quartz crystal possesses a remarkable property known as piezoelectricity. When you apply pressure or mechanical stress to it, it generates a tiny, measurable electric charge. Conversely, if you pass an electric current through it, the crystal vibrates at a precise, stable frequency. This principle is the heartbeat of all modern electronics, from your wristwatch to your smartphone. The question that lingers is not whether the ancients had wristwatches, but whether they recognized this living, responsive quality within the stone itself. Could they have sensed that certain crystals were not just beautiful but active? Some researchers look beyond the controversial skulls to other, less disputed artifacts. The massive, precision-made stone boxes within the of Saqqara in Egypt, for instance, are carved from granite, a rock rich in quartz crystals. Their purpose remains one of archaeology's great enigmas. Were they simply sarcophagi, or could their specific material and resonant, hollow form have been chosen for another reason? If struck or subjected to vibrational pressure, might such a box have generated subtle piezoelectric effects, perhaps integrated into a ritual or healing practice? This idea connects directly to the acoustic properties we find at ancient sites. Sound is a form of pressure, a wave of mechanical energy. If a culture understood that sound could shape matter, as in, and also that pressure could elicit an electrical response from crystal, then their use of sacred spaces takes on another dimension. A temple chamber, built with specific crystalline stones and designed to resonate at certain frequencies, could become more than a ceremonial hall. It might be envisioned as an integrated energy system, where chanting, drumming, or even the Earth's own subtle vibrations interacted with the stone to produce a measurable, perhaps perceptible, field of energy. This represents the most speculative, yet philosophically complete, frontier of the hypothesis. It suggests the lost science did not merely use materials, it communed with them. It viewed the mineral kingdom not as dead matter, but as a latent participant in a cosmic conversation of vibration and charge. A quartz crystal, a block of granite, a slab of limestone, these were not just building blocks. They were batteries, transducers, and receivers in a world understood to be fundamentally alive and interconnected. In this view, the perfect crystal skull, whether a genuine artifact or a powerful modern symbol, becomes a perfect metaphor. It represents the ultimate goal of that science, to shape consciousness itself, the most refined crystal of all, using the hidden energies of a universe singing in every stone. This synchronization of calendars with biological cycles forms a profound 23rd clue. The ancient timekeepers did not separate the clock of the heavens from the rhythms of the living body. They observed a deep, resonant harmony between the two, and they built their most sacred systems of time around it. The most universal example is the moon. Its 28-day cycle governs the ocean's tides, the planting cycles of countless crops, and remarkably, the average human menstrual cycle. This was not seen as a mere coincidence, but as a fundamental principle of a living universe. The moon's pull on the waters of the earth was understood to extend to the waters within us, linking women's physiology directly to the celestial dance. This connection was honored in countless traditions, where menstrual seclusion or moon lodges were not taboos, but sacred times for reflection and renewal, aligning a powerful internal cycle with its cosmic counterpart. This biocosmic thinking reaches its most sophisticated expression in the enigmatic 260-day calendar of the Maya. Unlike solar or lunar calendars, the is a sacred count, a wheel of 20-day signs combined with 13 numbers. For centuries, its purpose puzzled scholars. Then, researchers noted a stunning correlation. The average duration of human gestation, from conception to birth, is approximately 266 days. When adjusted for the lunar cycle's influence on conception, the core period aligns almost perfectly with the gestational timeline. This suggests the Maya, and perhaps other cultures using similar counts, viewed this calendar not just as a spiritual almanac, but as a map of human creation itself. It was a tool for understanding the sacred journey from spirit to flesh, timing important life passages to moments of cosmic support. This represents an advanced science of time with a profoundly practical and spiritual goal. It was a science of right timing, of kairos over. The aim was to align human activity, from the sowing of seeds to the conception of a child to the undertaking of a great spiritual initiation, with the most harmonious and supportive moments in the cosmic cycle. Planting by the moon's phase to harness soil moisture was one application. Scheduling a community ceremony or a healer's work during a specific planetary alignment was another. They sought to act in flow with the universe, not against its currents. This required an integrated, holistic understanding that wove together astronomy, biology, agriculture, and human ecology into a single, living tapestry of knowledge. The calendar was not a dry chart on a wall. It was an operating manual for thriving within a participatory cosmos. It taught that our personal rhythms are echoes of galactic rhythms, and that by listening to one, we learn to dance with the other. This ultimate alignment of microcosm and macrocosm reveals the heart of their quest, not dominion over nature, but conscious, graceful partnership with the intelligent pulse of life itself. Gold was never the true treasure. In laboratory workshops from ancient Alexandria to the imperial courts of China, a different kind of gold was sought, one that shimmered not in a vault but within the human soul. This is the 24th clue, the global tradition of alchemy and transmutation. Far more than a misguided quest for riches, alchemy was the experimental, hands-on branch of the lost global science, a sacred practice where the principles of cosmic order were tested in the crucible and the retort. Its ultimate aim was profound, the transformation of base human nature into its highest, most refined state, a process mirrored in the attempt to transmute lead into gold. The laboratory became a theater for the soul's journey. Each piece of equipment held symbolic meaning. The alembic for distillation represented the purification of thought. The furnace's intense heat stood for the trials of spiritual awakening. The mysterious philosopher's stone, the legendary catalyst for transmutation, was not merely a physical substance, but a symbol for the enlightened consciousness itself, the perfected state of being that could transform everything it touched. Yet, to dismiss this as mere metaphor is to miss half the story. The alchemists were masterful practical chemists. Their meticulous processes of calcination, dissolution, separation, and conjunction required a sophisticated understanding of materials. They pioneered techniques like distillation, creating pure essential oils and alcohols. They mastered sublimation, the transformation of a solid directly into a vapor. They developed complex alloying processes, creating metals with new properties. This was rigorous, repeatable experimentation, a science of matter in its own right. What makes this a global clue is the stunning consistency of its symbolism and practice across the world. The serpent eating its tail appears in Egyptian, Greek, and Indian alchemical texts as a symbol of cyclical transformation and the unity of all things. The cryptic image of the green lion devouring the sun shows up in European manuscripts and has parallels in Taoist alchemical imagery, representing a crucial stage of dissolution. In China, the quest for the elixir of immortality pursued by Taoist adepts involved similar processes of refining cinnabar and other minerals, seeking not just eternal life, but spiritual transcendence. In India, the practice of within Ayurveda sought to purify and perfect the physical body as a vessel for enlightenment, using complex herbal and mineral preparations. This is not a case of independent invention converging on a simple idea. It is the shared architecture of a profound philosophy. Alchemy represents the most complete fusion of the lost science's core principle, the refusal to separate spirit from matter. To the alchemist, the lead in his crucible and the heaviness in his own heart were governed by the same universal laws. Purifying one was a step toward purifying the other. Their laboratory was a microcosm, a model of the cosmos where the practitioner could actively participate in the fundamental transformations of creation. This tradition, whispered in coded texts and guarded by initiates, is the smoking gun of a science that was both deeply mystical and rigorously empirical. It shows us a world where the quest for knowledge was a sacred, personal transformation, where every experiment in the material world was simultaneously an experiment in consciousness. The true gold they sought was not in a coin, but in a state of being, a realization that the power to transmute the universe begins with the willingness to be transformed by it. Sometimes the most direct evidence is the hardest to interpret. Scattered across temple walls and ancient artifacts are images that seem to defy their time, visual puzzles that refuse to sit comfortably within our historical narrative. These are not complex artifacts like the mechanism, but simple depictions, carvings and paintings that appear to show objects startlingly out of place. In the crypt of the Temple of Hathor at Egypt, a famous relief shows a large, bulb-like object held aloft by a priest. Inside this bulb, a snake extends along its length, while a cable-like cord connects it to a box held by a kneeling figure. To many modern eyes, the resemblance to an oversized light bulb or some form of electric lamp is immediate and uncanny. Mainstream Egyptology provides a compelling alternative explanation, interpreting the scene as a symbolic representation of a lotus flower birthing the sun god, with the snake representing the divine life force. Yet the visual similarity remains provocative, a coincidence that feels almost too perfect. A similar mystery, though largely resolved, arose from the Temple of Seti I. For years, photographs of a specific wall panel circulated, showing what looked unmistakably like a helicopter, a submarine, and even a futuristic aircraft amidst the traditional hieroglyphs. The explanation, confirmed by scholars, is a fascinating example of a palimpsest in stone. A later pharaoh, the second, had his own cartouche, his royal name, carved directly over the earlier inscriptions of his father. Over time, the erosion of the top layer partially revealed the older carving beneath, creating a chance composite image that our pattern-seeking brains assemble into familiar modern shapes. This is a clear and logical archaeological process, yet its initial impact was profound. It sparked a global conversation precisely because the idea felt, for a moment, possible. While most of these enigmatic images have orthodox and well-reasoned explanations, their collective presence serves a deeper purpose. They force a critical and reflexive question upon us. When we look at ancient art, are we sometimes seeing literal depictions of tools or devices from a technological context we have completely forgotten? Or are we, as modern people steeped in a world of machines, unconsciously projecting our own reality onto their symbolic language? The answer is likely a complex blend. The relief is almost certainly mythological, but its precise, diagrammatic quality suggests it might represent a real, if esoteric, piece of ceremonial equipment, perhaps a device for generating a luminous plasma or static electricity using principles we no longer practice. The misinterpretation is not entirely random. It points to a sophistication that we instinctively categorize as technological. This is the true clue hidden within these artistic anomalies. The very fact that we scour their reliefs for light bulbs and helicopters reveals something fundamental about our own perception of their achievements. On a subconscious level, the precision of their masonry, the scale of their engineering, the complexity of their astronomy, it all feels to us like the product of a technology, not just manual labor and patient observation. Our minds reach for familiar parallels, because what they accomplished seems to demand tools and knowledge that match the grandeur of the results. Their art becomes a test for our own astonishment. In the graceful curve of a carved snake within a stone bulb, we see not just a symbol of a god, but the ghost of a filament, a lingering echo of a science that understood and manipulated forces in ways we are only beginning to rediscover through our own vocabulary of volts and currents. These ambiguous images, standing at the crossroads of myth and machine, challenge us to expand our definition of what technology can be, and to wonder if the light they ever generated was not from a bulb, but from a mind illuminated by a different kind of power. A coherent narrative now rises from the scattered clues like a city from the mist. The pattern is unmistakable, a story of ascent, rupture, and a long, slow diaspora of knowledge. The collective evidence points toward a single, devastating conclusion, that our ancient world was not born in isolation, but born from a scattering. A great and integrated science, once whole, was shattered by a profound disruption. The geological record offers a prime suspect, the chaotic end of the last ice age. As mile-high glaciers melted, sea levels surged hundreds of feet, swallowing continental shelves and triggering worldwide climatic chaos. For any advanced culture existing on those now drowned coastlines, this would have been an apocalypse. It was the Great Fall. In its wake, the unified network was broken. The survivors, scattered to the high ground of different continents, became the seeds of new beginnings. Each group carried with them only what they could hold in memory and tradition, a precious but fragmented inheritance. One group, finding refuge in the Nile Valley, might have preserved the sacred mathematics and celestial codes, giving rise to the priestly astronomers of Egypt. Another, reaching the high Andes, held fast to the principles of polygonal masonry and seismic engineering, leading to the master builders of Peru. A third, arriving in the Indus Valley, retained the sophisticated urban planning and hydraulic science for their meticulously planned cities. These were not separate inventions, but divergent branches growing from a single shattered tree. This model of a peak, a fall, and a scattering elegantly explains the maddening puzzle at the heart of ancient history. It accounts for the stunning, precise parallels, the shared constants of pi and precession, the global language of sacred geometry. These are the indelible fingerprints of a common source. Yet it also explains the profound differences, the unique gods, the distinct artistic styles, the varied writing systems. These are the results of 12,000 years of isolated evolution, as each survivor culture adapted their fragment of the old science to new lands, new climates, and new spiritual understandings. The knowledge mixed with local innovations was reinterpreted through new myths and was sometimes diluted or lost entirely. This transforms our view of human progress. We are not looking at a simple, linear climb from primitive to advanced. We are witnessing a story of catastrophic loss and extraordinary resilience. It is a narrative of refugees rebuilding with salvaged blueprints, of priests struggling to remember the motions of stars their ancestors perfectly charted, of engineers attempting to replicate feats they no longer fully understood. Our recorded history is not humanity's first attempt at civilization, but its second great act, a monumental global rebuilding project. Every precise alignment, every impossibly fitted stone, every myth of a golden age and a great flood is a testament to that struggle. We are not merely moving forward into an unknown future, we are also, piece by puzzling piece, remembering a forgotten past. The journey of history, then, becomes a dual quest, to innovate anew while slowly, painstakingly, reassembling the inheritance that was scattered to the winds when the world changed. 26 threads of evidence now converge into a single, compelling tapestry. We have walked the labyrinth of stone, traced the clockwork of the stars, and listened to the echoes of stories told across. The clues are too numerous, too precise, and too globally distributed to dismiss as mere coincidence. They paint a portrait not of isolated genius, but of a shared intellectual heritage, a sophisticated understanding of the world that seems to have been seeded across the planet long before the rise of what we call history. This is not a call to tear down the existing narrative of human achievement, but an invitation to expand it. Mainstream archaeology has given us an invaluable framework, a timeline built on meticulous excavation and scholarly consensus. Yet within that framework, there remain undeniable anomalies, silent stones, and stubborn myths that whisper of a deeper past. To ignore these whispers is to close a door on a potentially grander story. The true value of this exploration lies not in proving a specific theory, but in rediscovering a sense of profound wonder. It asks us to look at the Great Pyramid, at the silent of Easter Island, not as the crude beginnings of something, but as the elegant, perhaps diminished, echoes of something that came before. It humbles us. It reminds us that the span of recorded history is but a thin layer atop the deep soil of human experience. Our ancestors were not primitive people stumbling toward enlightenment. They were likely the resilient inheritors, the keepers of a flame that had already burned brightly. They built with a knowledge that intertwined the cosmic with the earthly, treating numbers as sacred and stones as living participants in a universal harmony. What we have labeled as mythology or mere ritual may have been the practical application of a science we are only beginning to comprehend. Arthur C. Clarke's famous observation rings with new resonance here. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. To a culture that has forgotten the principles of resonance, a temple that chirps like a bird is magic. To people who have lost the art of chemistry, stones fused together seem magical. The magic of the ancients may have been the applied science of their forgotten world, a holistic technology that wove together physics, consciousness, and the living earth. This journey does not end here. It continues with every new scan of a hidden chamber, every fresh analysis of an ancient text, every diver exploring a submerged ruin. It continues in the questions we are now brave enough to ask. What do you believe these 26 clues, and the countless others we did not have time for, ultimately reveal? Does the idea of a lost global science resonate with you, or do you see a different pattern in the puzzle? The conversation is what moves understanding forward. Share your perspective in the comments below. Let's build this mystery together. If this exploration into humanity's deepest past has sparked your curiosity, consider subscribing. We are just beginning to scratch the surface of history's greatest enigmas. Keep questioning, keep wondering, and never stop looking up at the stars or down at the ancient stones, for they are all pages in the same unfinished story.